Welcome to today's episode on the Yes, It's Legal podcast. So a lot of talk has been going around these past few weeks. News reporters all across the state of Tennessee have been doing their version of the reports on what the TBI testing standards is, and all in hype for this video that came out last week about the some of the head folks, as you're going to get to meet them here soon in this video, that are discussing their ideas on kind of what we've created in the state of Tennessee for hemp. So a lot of good insights as to what they see is and then a lot of good insights really to they understand what's going on, and pros, cons, all the above. But let's watch this video and see what they got to say.
I'm David Roush. I know for your purposes, it's David Rausch, Director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. So I appreciate all of you coming this afternoon. What we want to do is clarify some of the information that has been put out into the public that frankly was not accurate. And so we want to share some accuracy and to educate a bit on testing procedures here at the TBI. And so what I want to make sure you understand, so we're going to talk about the testing of the green plant material that generally when it comes to us is being presumptively sent to us as potentially marijuana. And so we want to tell you how that testing is done, what that testing consists of, and how we report our findings. Let me make it very clear, firstly, up front, that no one has challenged our testing. No one has said that our testing is anything but accurate. No one has said our testing is fallible. As a matter of fact, we follow some very specific protocols, those that have been outlined and directed, the standards that have been set both nationally and internationally in regards to the science involved with testing. And we are an accredited lab, and that accreditation takes place regularly. And so no one has questioned our testing process, procedures, or outcomes. Now, there has been some inflammatory statements made that I take offense to because of the statements that were made. And so I want to make sure the record is clear. Our testing is solid. Our scientists have not been challenged on their testing, and that we stand 100% behind the findings that our scientists present. And so with that, I want to turn it over to our assistant director over forensics, Mike Little, and Mike can go into more detail about the process and procedures that we use when we're testing the plants that come in that are presumptively identified as marijuana when they come to our lab. So Mike, you want to?
Sure. My name is Mike Little, Lyttle. I'm the Assistant Director for the Forensic Services Division, which is the crime labs. We have been doing testing on plant material for years. In 2018, hemp was legalized under the Farm Bill, and so we have had to adjust our testing accordingly. There have been some law changes in Tennessee, and we've been responsive to those changes in the law in providing testing and reporting that we feel best meets the needs of what we can do and what the law spells out. So prior to the legalization of hemp, all plant material, cannabis sativa, was illegal. So it was a relatively simple thing for us to perform testing on. We would look at it under a microscope. We would do a color test on it, and based upon that, we could identify it as the plant cannabis sativa. When hemp was legalized, that made it a little more complicated. Hemp is cannabis sativa. Marijuana is cannabis sativa. The only difference between the two is the concentration of the THC between the two plants. Hemp is required to have a THC concentration of less than 0.3%. While marijuana is going to have a THC concentration greater than 0.3%. So there have been a number of compounds.
One of the biggest highlights for the state of Tennessee has always had the definition of THC is equal to Delta-9 THC. So as it regards in Tennessee, like I said, always has been since 2014, reconfirmed in 2018, and then in 2023, July of last year, the law was signed into place saying that THCA in the state of Tennessee is not considered the version of THC like a lot of other states consider, and those are called total THC states. So whenever we're looking at the USDA regulations, a lot of times they'll talk in the video about the under 0.3% total THC. Well, on the USDA side of stuff, it is that way. Tennessee grow regulations up until 2022, when they were forced to join, the federal government said, hey, you join the USDA hemp program because we're not allowing individual states to have their own hemp program. So up until 2022, Tennessee had it's one of the largest. In 2018, it was the largest, more hemp growers in the state of Tennessee than any other state. And the definition was still set in play by the state of Tennessee to say that THC is equal to Delta-9 THC. So countless times in 2018, 19, 20, and 21, and 22, we'd send all our reports. A third-party company started coming out in 2020, Agwin Hats, and they were like the third-party inspectors that would come out to your grow and actually clip samples and send them off for a potency analysis. 2018, 2019, the Department of Ag people would come by and clip samples and send it to the Department of Ag lab, and then they would just send you a thumbs up or thumbs down, like Delta-9 less than 0.3 or Delta-9 more than 0.3. And we never had any failures the whole time the Tennessee Department of Ag was doing the grow. And then when USDA come in, they went on the federal guidelines, not the Tennessee guidelines, because the Tennessee didn't have a grow method. But you'll see.
Related to hemp, things like CBD, things like Delta-8 THC. And we have no problem providing testing, providing results on those to tell you that it is CBD, that it is THC, or that it is Delta-8 THC. In 2023, Tennessee law legalized or added to the definitions of hemp-derived products a compound called THCA. THCA is a precursor to THC. It's very, very similar to that. We have been following the testing set forth by Tennessee law and the federal farm bill that required decarboxylated testing. And I know that's a complicated word, but that's really the crux of what's going on. Decarboxylated testing means essentially removal of the A part from THC and THCA and converting that to THC. So we've continued to provide decarboxylated testing. In 2023, when Tennessee added THCA to its list of hemp-derived products, we changed our reporting to be total THC, meaning that when we report THC, it's a combination of THCA and THC. We have also partnered with the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. They have the instrumentation to discern between THCA and THC. So if the district attorney requires that test, we can partner with the Department of Agriculture and they can tell us the difference. We don't have the instruments in place right now to tell the difference between THCA and THC. We've invested about $600,000 over the last year in instrumentation to do that. It's in the process of being installed and validated, and we hope that around January 1st of 2025, we'll be able to provide some testing in-house at TBI that can discern between THCA and THC. Until then, we're relying upon the Department of Agriculture to do that, as well as the district attorneys to look into the case in its totality to see if THCA is in question. So that's really the gist of it. Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah. What happens now to the people that have been prosecuted under this in the past?
Yeah, so that is going to be up to each district attorney general to review those cases and determine if there is a question in terms of the results that they were provided. That is a decision by each DA individually as they review their cases to make a determination of what they do going forward.
And what are you guys going to do?
So going forward, we are, as Mike mentioned, we had purchased the equipment. We are working on getting that up and running, and we will be providing the testing that currently the Department of Agriculture is providing for the state at this time. So we'll be able to do that testing for criminal cases. So to understand the volume. So Department of Agriculture tests about 1,000 samples a year. we're in our side of the house. Brett here is our manager over our services there for the drug chemistry. We're looking at 30,000 samples that come in. And so obviously quite a bit different in terms of scale of testing. And so we are standing up so that we're able to handle this, in the effort going forward. So that's where we're at in terms of what our role is and will continue to be in this aspect of
a typical lab runs a full-scale lab runs like 100 samples a day.
But because some of these cases are being overturned, how does your testing play into that if it's not being questioned for how accurate?
That's a great question. I can't answer that. All I can tell you is that when the results are requested, we provide the results. And the testing has not been questioned. The testing has not been brought into this issue. I don't know the decisions that are being made, and it's not our part to get involved in that. That is completely up to the district attorneys. Our role simply is to provide the information on the evidence that is presented to us. And so that information has been provided. In terms of what happens specifically, case by case, that's a conversation with our district attorneys.
When you say that your tests were accurate, I understand that completely. But what we're hearing is it wasn't the right test to be done in order to discern it. Is the TBI taking any responsibility for having conducted the wrong test for the plant?
Yeah, that's inaccurate as well. We conducted the correct tests. The question, the legal question that is out there is what we are providing, does that meet what the law says is the question. And it's not about what our testing is, right? When the law changed, that's when we changed our reporting as well, right? To meet what we saw as what the law was requiring. And that is to report it as total THC rather than giving the percentages on Delta-9.
What's
which
weird
is
they
what we
can give
did
a
prior
percentage
to the change in 2020.
Here's a percentage on Delta-9, so they're able to separate. This is a Delta-9
we have been
percentage,
providing the testing,
not the THCA percentage.
now,
So it's
in terms of the type of testing that is now being requested, right? That's what we're working on. We're trying to get to the type of testing that is being requested to break it out further. And so that's where we're at in terms of the testing. I get it. It's confusing. I understand that. But that confusion has been created by changes in the laws that have been brought forward. Now, ultimately, remember this: federally, the plant is still illegal, right? It doesn't matter if you call it hemp, you call it whatever you want to call it. Federally, it's still an illegal product.
Didn't the 2018 Farm Bill make federal hemp rather than cannabis legal?
So it made that's the challenge, right? And so it made hemp, right? And so Mike mentioned the difference between the plants. So marijuana is still illegal. Hemp is what they made legal, right? So those are two different types of plants. And so that's where this confusion has come in, right? They made hemp legal. They never made marijuana legal. And marijuana is still a Schedule I under federal law. And so that plant continues to be an illegal, right, plant. And so but you're right, it's a hair-splitting game that they played. That's the challenge, and that's the issue that we have to deal with. But our testing is still solid. We can still tell you the difference between hemp and marijuana. The problem that's been brought up in Tennessee is this difference between THC and THCA.
Please cut me off if I'm taking up too much airtime on this. When you go and send things to the Department of Agriculture in the future, decarbonization still happens at room temperature. How can you transport it without being 100% sure that you're not going to get higher levels of THC now?
Yeah, so now you're getting into his world.
Probably let Brett handle that.
Yeah,
one.
I'll let Brett handle that. You want to make sure you spell it and say your name.
I think you just alluded to.
Tell him your name.
Tell me your
I'm
name,
sorry.
spell and say so.
Brett Trotter, BRETT, and then TROTTER.
What's your position? Sorry.
I am the forensic scientist supervisor and the technical leader for the forensic chemistry unit. I know that's a mouthful. That is in fact the challenge, and maybe that's the most important message that I would like to convey is that THCA may be a legal compound, but there is no way it can exist without becoming an illegal compound. And when I have to present that in court, that's hard for me to do. So it's not just our testing methods that will convert it from THCA to THC, but that will happen no matter if you store it in a refrigerator, no matter if you store it outside, no matter how the sample is stored, it will convert to an illegal substance. How quickly that happens is the question. And that's just not something that science can answer yet because cannabis was controlled, we couldn't research it in universities, we couldn't look at it, we couldn't study it as freely as we should have. So we're now answering those questions, but
He wants it to be
how
the
quickly
future.
something
Yeah.
degrades, it takes time to know. So we're going to be able to provide the answer at the time we test it.
Right. And I think that's critical that you understand what he's talking about. So when the substance is encountered by policing, typically what they're going to do is they're going to do a field test on it. Now that field test can be a number of things, but we have one way of doing it. It's called a light lab. So when that test will come back and say whether or not presumptively it is illegal or legal. Presumptively, it'll say if it's presenting as illegal, right? And so then it is sent to the lab. It's collected then and sent to the lab. So then it'll be up to the determination by the DA to decide if they want that further testing. And they'll request the further testing. So on the initial stop, the presumptive test may show it's positive for an illegal substance. And then when it comes to the lab, there may be, right, whatever that delay is, and then test it again, and we'll show what we can find, if it's an illegal or not, right? That is what will happen at the next step. So we will try, and we're working very hard to make sure that time process is limited in terms of how long that takes. Again, we don't know if decarb
Does happen fast.
if that takes place within hours, days, months. We don't have that science completely yet, right? Until that research is done. But what we do know is what it shows when it's initially encountered and what it shows when our scientists test it. We know what it is at those points.
But what's the average Tennessean to do in this situation? You go to a legal store where you can purchase a THCA flower, have it in the front seat of your car, drive, get pulled over, officer might smell something. Now all of a sudden they're carrying a legal substance that by the time it reaches the lab, even if it gets there, it's on a back order of 30,000 other things that need to be tested, even just the time itself. And now you've got a person who might have had a speeding ticket in for a marijuana possession.
Yeah. So let me clarify a couple things there. So the turnaround, the 30,000 aren't all at one time. So there's not 30,000 sitting on the shelf to be tested. So let me clarify that immediately, right? So that's not where we're at, right? And so turnaround times are actually continually increasing, 2 to 4 weeks for most of your marijuana cases, right? So it's not an overly lengthy period of time for the testing. In terms of what to tell the public is, I would say be smart consumers, frankly, and that's the best I can tell you is be a smart consumer. Understand the challenge of this, right? If your intent is to get high, then buy THCA and heat it up, because that's what's happening. I'm not naive to this, right?
Be careful with
I've
taking
been
it
in
to
this
Georgia.
business for a long time.
Tennessee,
This
Georgia.
the game that has been played by big marijuana as in general is this whole game that we're in the middle of, right? And that is this game of calling it something other than it is, right? THCA can be transferred pretty quickly to become THC, so it's marijuana. And so what I would tell the consumers is, if you want marijuana, go buy it, right? But I would tell you that the chances are you get stopped by a police officer and they smell that and they take that from you, right? And it's tested presumptively right there, and it tests for marijuana, then you could have yourself a legal challenge, a legal issue, right? And so I think that's the warning I would give any of the public, is understand that when you're in this, when you're dealing in this arena, the chances of getting something that's marked, packaged is.
This is one thing to highlight, even if you're in like Colorado or Oregon or California or any of these places, and if you leave a dispensary and you open the package up and you smoke it on the street or smoke it in your car, those things are all still illegal in those places. Even though you can go to a store and buy it, if you get in your car and smoke in your car and go for a drive, that's still illegal. So whenever they're talking to these cases, they're talking about pulling somebody over for maybe some probable cause about they're under the influence of something and they smell it. So it's like there's a right and wrong place, a right and wrong way of doing things. So mainly the highlight on that aspect of it is don't smoke in your car and have your car smelling like weed, right?
We have found that a number of times in operations that we've done, that the packaging is false on many of these products. And so I think that's something to be aware of.
THCA, though, is now written into Tennessee law.
It is currently written into Tennessee law as being legal, yes.
So, to the average person,
Yes, it's legal.
Again, if you're buying a substance you think is legal and you have any interaction with the police while it's in your possession, what are you to do?
Well, I think you've got to do the best you can to show your packaging, show where you got it, provide that proof to the officer, and that's your best opportunity, I would say. If you've got it in a baggie and you're carrying it around like anyone else would carry marijuana, then I would tell you probably have some challenges. You can show where you purchased it at a receipt. You've got the packaging from the legal store.
Taxes
then
were paid
you
on
probably
at that
have an
point,
argument.
and you have an argument.
Let's use air quotes around legal store.
Well, I don't believe the substance is legal. It's not federally legal, but I understand in Tennessee we've allowed it.
It's not fairly legal, but it's legal in Colorado. It's like, well, they made their own laws.
So the field testing, again, if they're using the light lab, the field testing is solid. The presumptive testing is solid. And so
field
again,
testing
but
can't
it's
tell the difference between Delta-8,
right?
Delta-9,
If it
THC,
has to have
or
further
THCA.
testing, then they send it
All
to
the
us,
same on a
and
light
the
lab.
further testing is requested.
While this presumptive testing is happening and there's these questions, as you said, there's so much complications and questions in the air. I guess are there people that could be being charged for these results that are under question? I mean, in this process, what are people to do that are up against jail time?
Yeah. So again, the results are not what's under question, right? What's being questioned is, when does it decarboxylize? That's what's under question, right? It's not the results. The results are the results, right? Scientifically, they've been appropriately processed. So the question comes in terms of the process itself. How long has that been there? Did it decarboxylize in our possession? And those are questions that have not been answered that exist.
And I'm just trying to understand this myself.
Sure.
Is there a chance it could have decarboxylized and then it was tested, which would then give an inaccurate result?
It's not going to be inaccurate on the result. Again, the result is going to be the result. It's not inaccurate.
Okay. Would that be a fair, I guess, if it had decarboxylized in your possession? Is that something that would be fair in a trial?
I'm going to let the scientist handle that. Yeah.
There are guidelines presented by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's even in our own laws. We're required to do post-decarboxylation testing. So to answer your question, it doesn't matter at what point it becomes decarboxylized. I'm required to test it in that manner.
Similar to...
Therein lies the concern that you can't have one of these compounds be legal and one of them be illegal. It doesn't make any scientific sense.
Right.
But we are going to address the law in the best manner we can and try and serve the citizens of Tennessee to the best of our ability. That's what we're working.
And one of the guidelines, like in Tennessee's rule book, it does say, and it has always said since the beginning of, similar to post-decarboxylation method testing. New Bloom Labs, it's our most reputable lab that we have in the state of Tennessee. DEA certified, above and beyond. Department of Ag outsources to those guys for sample testing. The third-party USDA growers that all the plants that are grown in Tennessee, when the guys come out, they're on the testing lab to use as your third-party analysis as well. So highly respected lab. Couldn't ask for a better standard to have, and that's who we use for all of our testing. And all of their testing is done similar to post-decarb method. So whenever you get your report, you get your total THC report, but then you get your breakdown of your Delta-9 THC and your Delta-8 and your THCA, and they're all broke down individually with right on the top right box the total Delta-9 number, because that's the most significant number. So it's a controversial thing because they are doing the same testing methods that are followed by in the rules set forth by, here's your Delta-9 number, follow the same similar to post-decarb method. So it's one of those where it's like, well, this is the way you're supposed to do it. This is the way they do it. This is the way the test result says it's done. These are the results. And the results, again, don't lie, right?
I think Mike told me the best analogy is where we are in Tennessee is ice is legal, water is illegal.
But if you care, I'm still confused on that point. If you wouldn't mind reiterating, maybe a different way will help me understand better. But if somebody wants to go, because these stores are quite popular around Tennessee, and they are carrying flower products in containers at the front that you can just walk out with. If I'm an average person who buys this product from a legal store, am I putting myself in legal jeopardy?
Not if you have your packaging and your receipt. Right?
I think the director said it best, that you need to be a smart consumer. That when we test these products or ag test these products, the result that we give are going to be the result at the time of the testing. It's not going to be the result at the time you bought it or the time that you had it in your car 5 minutes later. It's going to be the result at the time of testing. A smart consumer should understand what kind of product they're buying, and they should understand that THCA is going to convert to THC. I mean, as he said, let's be honest, that's why they're buying it in the first place. So they need to understand that that process is occurring. And if they get caught with that product when it is converted from THC to THC, THCA to THC, it's an illegal product.
Interesting. I actually didn't realize that the possession of the heated THCA is in fact illegal.
Heated THCA is THC.
THC.
THC is illegal.
So even if you keep your packaging, you still could be.
If you're smoking it, you could be in trouble.
Really? Just smoking it, taking it. So
That heats it up. It becomes THC.
But when
Do
you
you
smoke
think
it and you
there's like a
smoke it all, it's
solution to all
gone,
of
right?
this?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Sure there is. Yeah, there's a legislative fix for this.
what are you calling for that fix?
We will be having conversations.
Just these two guys.
The Department of Ag is in the middle of debating their own regulations and how they're going to enforce that. Many lawyers have said they plan to sue if they do make THCA products illegal because it has been written into state code. To that, what would you say?
Well, I'd say number one is the Department of Agriculture is following the federal legislation, and so that's where their rules are coming from. They're following the law. They're appropriately doing what they're required to do under
Tennessee legislation or Tennessee Department of Agriculture. If you were just to compare the Tennessee Department of Ag and the laws that we've helped create in this state compared to the USDA laws on manufacturing and childproof and all that, there's no compare. Tennessee's book is far superior to what USDA says. And that's why Tennessee's done such a better job. Like when you're in Chattanooga or Nashville, Knoxville and Memphis are kind of behind, but they're catching up to where we are. I feel like Chattanooga's leading the way. If you go to Alabama or anywhere else, and they have hemp stuff there, but it's nowhere near like it is in Tennessee. It's a whole different market here. It's definitely more dispensary line than, the random stuff at the gas station. But there is still the random stuff at the gas station. We just gotta get rid of that too.
that challenge. Of course, I'm sure. Lots of lawyers will have a lot of conversation about that.
I'm sorry, I got here a couple minutes late. You may
Sure.
have already covered this. Can you describe the guidance that was given to the DA's conference again?
Yeah, so we explained to the DA's conference of the testing challenges, right? We explained to them the way that we test. And we also explained to them since 2023, July 2023, when the law changed, the way we would report our results on our testing. So previous to July 2023, we reported the percentage of Delta-9 in those plants that we were
And then
testing.
again,
Now we report total THC.
And then again, so how did they have the equipment in 2023 and before to be able to separate the differences, but now only total THC, and just money being spent in the wrong places. Who knows?
Just in the law.
Misinformation.
So what we explained to them is that's where we're at, right? In terms of our ability to test the plant. We are working on, and we have been working with the Department of Agriculture. Agriculture has agreed to take cases upon request. And so what's happening is they still send them into us under the proper process for evidence. They send in their request for agriculture to test that evidence. We will then take a sample of that and send it to ag, and ag will do their test on it, which does not heat up the plant. And so then they'll be able to tell us what the breakdown is. They could, right? I'm not sure how they're reporting yet. They may be reporting THC total as well, but they can report the levels. We have purchased the instrumentation to do this ourselves, to be able to do it without heating. And so
this is the so-called cold test.
it's the code test,
Yeah.
right? So we have purchased that instrumentation. We are getting everything in place to be able to do that here as well as our other labs. And so that process is we are working through that. There are it's a piece of equipment that requires a different type of gases. So there's a lot of pieces that we have to put in place infrastructure wise in order to get those items working, as well as assuring that all of our scientists.
Real quick, he's just talking about right now they do high pressure liquid chromatography, but whenever they go to the gas chromatography and the mass spec as well too. So just different levels of chromatography for separating out to really prove what it is. And it is crazy the details on what they can get down to the percentage of 1,000th of 1%. It's wild.
Process. And so all of that is taking place. We're working as quickly as we can to get that process put in place so that we can do it. And the interim ag has been great and has been doing these for us. They have been testing the samples for us. So that's where we are right now. So those samples are being tested and appropriately reported on based on ag's findings.
Do you have an audit of how many tests were performed using this other method before you switched to an exclusively cold method?
From since July of 23?
I don't have the exact number since July of 23. We were requested by the DAs to send a spreadsheet of all the requests and reports that we've done since I think 2019. That was somewhere around 30,000 individuals. What that breakdown has been since 2023, I don't know.
So since 2019, it's
Just
almost
to
5 years,
clarify
30,000
again,
versus.
my apologies.
No, it's
I
okay.
know this is
That's why we're here. Yeah.
When you guys are reasserting, sorry, wearing two hats as well. When you guys are reasserting your confidence in your own testing and that you conducted the right tests at the right time, what do you say to anybody who's calling that into question, or because that has impacted their lives, whether that's parole, losing parole, etc.?
Yeah, once again, I stand behind our testing, and that testing has not been challenged. Nobody has challenged that testing. Nobody has said that testing is inaccurate. Nobody has said that the results of those tests have been inaccurate. So my comment on that is that our testing is solid. We have not been challenged. If a challenge comes forward, we're prepared to address any challenges to our testing.
Any comments or apologies to people whose lives have been impacted by carrying THCA but being tried as if it was a full THC illegal product?
Yeah, again, that's those conversations are conversations that are up to a district attorney general in terms of determining if that specific case has validity to be changed based on the facts that DA looks at and makes a determination on. So I have no apologies because I don't have anything that I need to apologize for. Our testing is our testing, right? Our job in the Bureau, right? We are fact finders. right? And that is fact-finding if we're conducting an investigation, and that is fact-finding if we are analyzing evidence. We present that information to the district attorney generals, whose responsibility and role is to prosecute, right? And so we owe no apologies based on what we do, because there's no flaw in the effort that we have put forward.
So you're saying it's accurate that these tests are all accurate, it's just maybe they're the wrong tests, kind of, that the DA is requesting, not the right sort of tests?
I'm not sure that that's accurate either. I think that the DAs are, and we're all working in a system that is created to address the challenges that are before us, right? And so we are providing the information with the testing that is current and the testing that is accurate for the process that we have. And so, it's not a matter of whether a DA is asking for the right test or if we're performing the right test. It is the changes and the interpretation, frankly, of those changes that we're dealing with.
What's your message to lawmakers? January is not that far away.
Well, it's clearly caused confusion, and I think there's an opportunity to clarify and to fix this. So I mean, it'll be clear to our legislative contingent this is something that we're more than happy to work with them on to get this all resolved.
What's a fix to the
To be
TBI?
clear though, but I mean, making it illegal again would also be clarifying, is the position of the Bureau that this should be illegal or not?
Yeah, I will tell you that's pretty solid. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Because
you'll
it's.
be lobbying the legislature to make THCA illegal.
Yeah, I don't lobby. I educate and inform. And so my role will be to educate on the facts. And the facts are THCA heated up is THC. So it's still the illegal drug that is federally against the law today, and still illegal in Tennessee today.
Just to follow up on my colleague's question, your message to lawmakers, it sounds like, is make THCA illegal.
My message, yes, will be very clear, and that is we don't need the confusion, right? And that we know what's legal and we know what's illegal.
So there are now several different districts, district attorneys around the state that have either looked at convictions, walked away from convictions, considering it, not prosecuting based on X or Y. This entire class of cases here that's in this sort of testing gray area, what's the TBI's guidance on that? Should all those cases be examined or not?
Yeah, so I don't give guidance and direction to the DAs. We are a customer, and we are the investigative resource for our DAs. And so I don't give them guidance or direction. What we do is we tell them where we are and what we are capable of doing, right? And so in terms of that is they know where we are, they know what is going on here. Each of them have to make those determinations based on what they see and what they determine on each case individually, because not every case is the same. So they've got to take a look at each case. There are other merits to the case as well that needs to be considered. The testing is only one portion of the evidence, right? There are other pieces of that case that need to be considered as well, right? And so that's not the only thing that they have to make their determination on whether or not that they have a solid case.
Follow up one quick.
Sure, that's
on
okay.
that.
Yeah.
The guidance that was given to the DA's conference back in the spring, was that written guidance? Was that verbal guidance? What was that?
So we had a meeting with them and had conversations. Now there was a request made from Assistant Director Little. He had responded back in writing to them. I think you've probably seen that, and I know that I have seen it come back to us. And so that specific guidance was basically just explaining what we've explained here today.
Right.
Any other? Again, I get it. It's confusing, but it's where we are. It's what we're doing, and I just again want to make it very clear that we stand behind our testing. Our testing, when we are asked to do the testing gives what the testing gives. Right? It's a solid test. There's nothing wrong with the way we do the test. They're doing it in accordance with what the standards are. They're doing it in accordance with what those the equipment that we have that is standardized throughout the nation. And so there's no question that the test is accurate.
The hot test.
Right, as well as the other, right? Because we're using AGS testing and we're preparing to do that as well. So both of those tests are accurate. The information you get from those is accurate.
But the preferable test going forward is a cold test.
We'll be reporting total THC with both tests. The only difference will be there'll be more information in the future, we hope, talking about how much THC contributes to that total amount and how much THCA contributes. That'll be the addition of our capabilities. And then, as the director said many times, that information will be available to the district attorneys and they can do with it what they feel is right.
And I know you sort of alluded to this earlier, you know, via informed consumer. I guess is the message to Tennesseans going forward that
absolutely.
they may not be able to trust product coming out of Tennessee stores?
Well, I think that's accurate. I think that they need to be smart consumers, and that they need to understand what happens with this, specifically with THCA. They need to understand what happens if they're purchasing a THCA product. They need to understand the potential challenges that come from buying that product.
I guess what do you say to the dispensaries when you walk in and they tell you, oh, this is perfectly legal, and someone may not know this? What would you say to dispensaries saying that, and then also to the person?
Well, I mean, they're being honest. Under Tennessee law, they are correct. It's legal. But what they're not telling you, right? It's kind of the same thing if you're buying a used car, right? They're not going to tell you all the potential pitfalls. They're just going to tell you it's a great car. I think the same thing here. They're going to tell you, hey, it's a great product. They're not going to tell you the pitfalls, and that's where the challenge comes, is where the pitfalls are.
How do you define pitfalls?
Well, the fact that it transfers from THCA to THC upon heat. All right. Thank you all.
All right. Video's over now. So some of the highlights that I like to take away from this is the fact that these guys, especially the head of the TBI, right? He's been prosecuting people for cannabis related charges since he joined the force. I mean, he's worked his way up to the top. He's been doing it for a while. He's great at what he does. His representation of the test is true and everything he said is accurate. At the end of the day, when you take a THCA flower, you light it and smoke it, your body intakes Delta-9 THC, which is regular THC. That's the quick difference. So THCA is as it grows, and then THCA converts into Delta-9 THC. So if you were to get a pre-roll or dabs or a vape or any of that type of something, it's just going to be in regular THCA form, natural, cold extracted, never more than, never even close to like negative 80 degrees when you're doing your extraction setup. So no chance of any conversion during that method. But after, of course, there's always a chance. We've found some bud underneath the car one day, and it was, I don't know, it was underneath the car for 2.5 years, underneath the car seat, and we tested it, and it was like 30% converted or whatever. So it happens just underneath the car seat, but left out in your heat, hot day, whatever. But all of our regulations that we've got on the grow side of stuff, especially on the on your harvest reports and stuff like that we've always done in Tennessee, is 30 days prior to harvest. You take your sample, send it into the lab, get verified, get tested. But what happens between that day that you tested it and 30 days after when you harvest it, and 14 days after when you cure it, and 14 days or dry it, and then 14 days after when you cure it, what that looks like on the transition. It's like, well, here's the test of whenever the harvest report. This is a full panel flower test during harvest is an acceptable test in the state of Tennessee. And at the end of the day, whenever we pushed this legislation for July of 2023 and all these things, the solidification of THCA, the childproof packaging, what a dispensary license looks like, what your metrics that you need to keep from, here's your seed to soil type COAs to prove your products are good. Every product has to have a batch COA, all these things that we did. And whenever we did that, we put in a 6% tax that went to 3 to the Department of Ag and 3 to the Department of Revenue. So everybody's on the same page and kind of understands what this means. It's just a lot of the big difference is, and what these 30,000 tests that they've done these past 5 years are going to be, is the people that were pulled over with, a Ziploc bag or a garbage bag or whatever. And then when you get to the distribution method, mainly what these guys are focused on going after, they're not coming after you in the state of Tennessee for a joint in your floorboard or whatever, like they would have done 10 years ago before all the hemp stuff was made legal here. But if somebody's riding around and they're sketchy or whatever happens about it, and they've got a sandwich baggie full of some bud and a little scale off to the side, that's the people that they're going after to test and prove in court. And then there's a certain limitation. They're not going to waste the time and send the test in. I guess it was in 2020 or 2021. The DEA said we're getting so many samples that were backlogged, many months backlogged. So they kind of cut out any small samples. I forgot there was a cutoff ratio that said 7 grams or 14 grams or something like that, unless you have enough to give somebody a charge of this level, probably like whatever the borderline for felony charge is. We don't need to take the samples in. So it's not something that they're fighting on the small scale, but trying to fight in the large scale. And again, if you're in Oregon, Colorado, California, Michigan, anywhere that it's, anything's legal, 100% legal, you walk in the store and buy it. But if you're growing it at your house and you're selling it to your friends on your street, that's still illegal. You can still go to jail for that on multiple different things. So, it's illegal there, it's illegal here. So a lot of what they're cracking down on isn't the people that are, bought a bag of gummies or bought a pre-roll or whatever from the store. It's the folks that are, out here on the black market, not paying their taxes, stuff like that. So, at the end of the day, he's not wrong. The results are the results, but you have your receipt, you have your bag, the taxes were paid on it, everything was done the right way. That's the same thing that happens in California. You bought it, it's in the bag, you paid your taxes on it, you're good. It's kind of the same idea, and that's why we're moving toward the idea of what a dispensary looks like in the state of Tennessee, and I feel like we're on that track. So we'll continue, and we lobby every year. So when January comes up and everybody tries to put in their what their opinions are, of course they want it illegal. They've already said and made their statement pretty bold that but it's coming again. These people are the group that wants it illegal. The police force, the drug task force, the DEA, all these guys that want it illegal. But it feels like at this point the one group, the Department of Ag, Department of Revenue, I feel like if it was to make it through, the Secretary of State would deny it just because of there's no reason that in 2024 this year Tennessee won't make somewhere in the $30 to $40 million in tax revenue just off what happened just since last year. It's only been it was 6 months of last year, and now this is the first full year of it. So whenever the reports come out at the end of the year, I can't imagine, and then not even just the reports of what this year was, but the rate of change between whenever they did the enforcement and on October 1 for applications and paying your sales tax and all that stuff. That we started last year. But there's still been people for the past 12 months, 14 months now, that haven't even paid in the 6% tax. Whenever they come out with a July statement saying, oh, here's the rules, here's what you got to do, a lot of people play dumb to it in the gas stations or whatnot. So the rate of change between October to December, I think October to December might even be more than the full year of 2024 for tax revenue for the state. So I feel like it's one of those that you can't put the genie back in the bottle type thing, and Tennessee's on the right path for legalization. As it is right now, you heard it right from them. You can walk into the store and buy something that you can smoke, and it's a great product. Even said it on the video. If you want to buy it, it'll get you high. But that's stuff that we don't ever say, right? but it's cool to see that everybody understands what's happening. It's not like this sly thing that's, oh, what do you mean? This is legal, this is illegal. It's like everybody understands what's going on, and it's just keep the push going. Maybe we're only another year away from everybody saying, you know what, it's decriminalized, it's whatever. We feel like we're really close to it. And at the end of the day, we do the right things. We test every one of our products. Everything that you buy has, certifications and testing and standards, and done the right way through the Department of Agriculture, licensed start to finish. So it's like we're in control of everything. The safety of what we're able to offer to the people is way safer than what the alternative would be, and that's meeting the random guy at the gas station or whatever, or calling your buddy up, or whatever plug you got. So the safe alternative for Tennessee citizens and the ease of access to get a safe product, it's only wins, and we're going to keep pushing for it. But you get kickback here and there, but I don't think they're in a winning position coming from where they're standing at. They've tried to do a couple different raids in places and stuff like that, and some of them are just. The Clarksville I guess it was the spring of this year and fall of last year, there was 4 or 5 that went down, but it was all for people that were 17 and 18 years old were going in there and buying like vapes and stuff like that. So it's like there's a right and wrong way to do things, and they're controlling it in the right way. They're not shutting everybody down that's trying to do stuff the wrong way. So to me, it seems like a good transition and a good flow of everything. So we're going to keep it legal, and thanks for watching, and let's hear what you got to say about it, and give us some comments and stuff like that. Thanks for listening to the podcast. It's been fun, informational, all the cool stuff, keeping this safe in the state of Tennessee. And, check us out next week. Yes, it's legal.